I think for me, it's more about understanding that the vision is present, even though it's 10 steps ahead, because the day-to-day execution of that vision happens today, and the fulfillment of that vision may be a little bit in the future, but it's actually right here that it's fulfilled. Because if it's not fulfilled, felt and experienced and lived in this moment, then that ultimate picture or image that you birth, it becomes really a drag, because everything feels slower, everything feels challenged. And so in our old stories, there's a story that suggests that your future is never in front of you.
Okay.
Your future is always crafted behind you.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Response Able with Professor Nikki James.
I mean, louder is better.
I think so.
Because then we can yell. I feel like I have a fake loud voice. Because if I actually screamed right now, I would be super loud.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Response Able podcast. It is my last week in South Africa, so I have a little bit more time to introduce you to some of my amazing South African friends and colleagues. And today you get to meet Earl-Djehuti. Yet again, Earl-Djehuti is one of my favorite humans. He and I collaborate together on the leadership development component of the program that I run in South Africa. So we combine students from my university, Northeastern, with his university, TSIBA, here in South Africa to collaborate together and serve entrepreneurs. But before they jump in and consult for the entrepreneurs, we do a 3-day boot camp, I guess, of leadership development. And it's really stemmed around helping the students show up fully human as they are and lead from that place and act from that place and collaborate from that place. And you'll hear a lot of where that comes from in both of us through this conversation. So Earl, thank you so much for being open to share your story. And I cannot wait for you guys all to listen to this episode. So let's jump in. Thank you so much for doing this, firstly. I will say that again at the end, but I'm very, very grateful that you're taking the time out. And more than that, probably super grateful just for what we get to do together and how we collaborate and learn and grow and serve our students together. It's always amazing. And I learn so much from you and grow so much from just being a part of this. So I'm really grateful that you're taking the time in the midst of your crazy schedule.
And I'm sure you know that the feeling is absolutely mutual. It's been phenomenal just journeying with you, walking alongside you.
Yeah.
I absolutely love your story, how it's evolved, how it's just every year you seem to be adding a little bit of padding to it. And more so, I get to know you deeper and deeper, and it's phenomenal. I think what I also appreciate is the deep level of professionalism that you bring to a very human space, and you just transform that space into a feeling space. Besides just being highly in the mind, there's a deep invitation to all our students and for ourselves just to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you for allowing me into your space, allowing me into the program and just to walk alongside you. It's been one of the most fulfilling experiences that I've had.
Oh,
so I just want to recognize that I love the program and the way you drive it, particularly because a lot of the story that you tap in through me is a story that is very seldomly told. And so I think not just from me, from all my people, from our ancestors, I believe they recognize your contribution to elevating that story and to making us visible. We've been invisible for a very, very long time. It's been a very trying and a hard and tough journey. And when you came in, you just made everything happen. And so I just want to recognize that. Thank you. Thank you.
I feel like it's a bit of my ancestors to your ancestors, and we're going to there's a hug going on right here, everybody. And we'll get into introductions in a second. But as I've kind of, I guess, felt more comfortable to go back into my own story. I mean, the thing I learned and what I shared this year is, although my ancestors are from England, and England holds responsibility for a lot of darkness and a lot of things, I had never truly known like the role my actual ancestors played. And going back this year and taking the time to actually go back into the generations, like what I learned was that although my family was kind of mainly laborers and people, like they weren't the decision makers in the situation. They were benefactors of a lot of the colonial history that England has. And although I would have had to grapple with it either way, like I feel like it kind of was, when we know better, we do better. And I believe that from like a generational standpoint as well. It's like, I don't think any of my family had any idea, right? Any idea the legacy that they were creating was built on the back of. But now that we, as a generational line, know better, we hopefully can do better. And so for me, I love that I get to come and do this and come and learn and grow and offer platform that I have as a result of where I've come from to share stories that matter. So thank you for allowing me the space to kind of slowly dig back over the last 3 years and get to the bottom of that story and be able to share that with you in the way that we lead and guide the students together. It's really phenomenal. So, yeah.
Ancestral reconciliation.
Yeah.
It's the word that came to me as you've been sharing that so deep in our past, there's a need for certain knots to be untied and for the reweaving of new strands.
Yeah.
And I think part of this conversation is not just the local South African conversation, but it's also that history that comes from far back, from England, from Australia, where you travel from to the States. And we're weaving strands together. And sometimes it's going to make sense, and other times it might not make sense. But I think the gift that we bring as leadership coaches, mentors, guides, is the ability, one of the gifts at least, is the ability to hold things or tensions in hands and just hold those tensions in a sacred container, which is our souls, which is our hearts at times. And then to choose, how do we respond? How do we respond when we feel the tensions? How do we respond when we think about the darkness, as you've referred to, the colonial history? How will we respond in this moment? And I think the love that you've shared, the absolute. So there's something administrative that you bring, I'm very loose when it comes to doing programs. And so you have this
command and control.
Yes, absolutely. There's this absolute administrative gift of organization, that you bring. And I love that, because the antithesis for me is I oftentimes go too far off, and I can talk for hours and hours, but I think you have really brought this gift of organizing time in a very meaningful way. And also a deep peace in my soul that it is okay to actually stop in 30 minutes. It's okay to stop in 45 minutes,
Yes.
And so it's that beautiful gift of what we used to perceive as an extremely colonial challenge. Everything must be done by the book. And we might not perceive it in that way at this particular moment.
Right.
But it's actually, for some of us, we carry that rigidity of the history of colonialism, apartheid, and where do we find ourselves now in a democratic society? So I think as a gift administratively, it's probably one of the larger requirements that we have to become more successful in places like South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really appreciate that. I know the gift is there, but I think just engaging you and walking alongside you has been very helpful to see that gift practically in action.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just want to recognize that
thank
and,
you.
and appreciate that as well. So yeah.
So good. I love it. And we bring like so many different things of who we are and our experiences together. And I think ultimately, if we come from a place of love, like, and give it time, right? It is something, structure and system and process is something that is used in a dark and brutal way. But it can also facilitate learning and growth and collaboration and all those things as well. And I think, if we can let go, like separate the gift from the intention and use that gift for good, it can be really powerful. And the same way of me letting go of time and sometimes being okay with it going over because of the moment. I think I've learned to feel the moment and know that, yes, we're running late, but that's okay because something's happening in the room. And being okay with that as well, which is something that I've learned. And I mean, just also sequencing like order of the day and all those types of things. We're getting better. We're getting better. And I really think that this year particularly, what we were able to do together was amazing. And I think a lot of that is because we're learning what the best order and sequence of things are, and just it's unfolding. And I'm so excited for next year already, even though the students only left 4 days ago. But we have jumped in the middle of the conversation, so let's go back to the beginning for a minute. And Earl-Djehuti, I would really love if you would introduce yourself to the people that are listening.
Right. I am really just, again, blessed to all your listeners. And I'm really, I don't know, how do I introduce myself? I've never done that. It's always been done by other people. But I think what I'd love people to remember me by is, my name is Earl-Djehuti. And so Djehuti is a very ancient Commission or concept that comes from old Africa in Kemet, or what is today called Egypt. It is the swoosh on your Nike shoe. It is the swoosh on your Nike shoe. It suggests that there is one who delivers messages swiftly and speedily from the skies, or from what people then call the gods. And so I think part of the gift that I want to share with you is that gift. And that's the gift that has also come through my own initiation in our own traditions. I come from a people that is called the Pam people. The Pam people is a very old group of people who used to stay in the northern edge and eastern edge of South Africa. And we now call it the Central Karoo. And it's in that space that a lot of my history was shaped. The history was a history of incredible humanity, and amidst all the trials and tribulations and challenges. So Earl-Djehuti, Earl is a very English name. It's the Earl of Cape Town.
Right.
So I'm the Earl of Cape Town. Maybe I am.
You're the Earl of the Nike swoosh.
Yes.
Hey!
So that is the part. And then the other part of my name is Tabu. So Tabu is the dreamer, the one who holds dreams and who dispenses dreams and who carry the wisdom of our ancestors. So Earl-Djehuti Tabu Erasmus. Erasmus is a classical Dutch name.
Okay.
And that name came through the ancestry that we had way back. We stayed on a farm, and there was a relationship between an Erasmus person, which was a person from European descent, with one of my ancestral grandmothers. And so that surname was attached to us because we technically belonged to the Erasmuses in a very typical slave society. We were the slaves to the Erasmuses, and by adoption we were owned by them. So it's a very deep history there. So Earl-Djehuti Erasmus is really, I think, the dream of our ancestors coming true in a democracy, really trying to deliver a message swiftly to our people, a message of deep humanity. And as we started off this conversation, ancestral reconciliation. And so part of what I share with the world is how do we reconnect with each other? How do we reweave our heartstrings together? How do we bring love back, deep love, human love back into our communities? I think that's part of who I am through my ancestors. The fields of expertise that I have, I'm a rites of passage facilitator for more than 25 to 30 years. I've been working with young men and people who go through transitions of their life. And what we help them to be guided through those phases and spaces in their lives where they struggle with just getting over the hill towards the next evolution of the journey. And for young men to become men, in some of our cultures, we help young men to become men by walking alongside them and inviting them to explore the new value systems that society is offering to them. And that society normally is a traditional society. What does those value systems mean within a modern society? So I'm a rites of passage facilitator. Then I teach I'm the leadership anchor at TSIBA. TSIBA is a business school, the tertiary school in business administration in Cape Town. So that's where you'll practically find me on a day-to-day basis. I'm lecturing there. And beyond that, I think I'm a father. I love my kids. I'm a spouse. I'm a husband to an incredible woman called Joy. And I name those things because I think one of the challenging experiences that society has today is the shaping of families. And I think my foundations come through family and has been coming through family for many years. It's been sort of that first port of call in terms of sustaining me. So I think family, a little bit of lecturing. I actually, the lecturing part is a continuation of the story of Earl-Djehuti Erasmus. It's that story that continues. And that's why I have these papers, you call them degrees. Yeah, one of my elders used to say, a degree means nothing unless you get degrees warmer for life. And so I think that's why I don't talk about degrees, because I think oftentimes degrees become so important that we forget we need to be passionate about life. Every degree should take me closer to becoming more human. Right. And the expression of that humanity should be articulated in these dissertations that you write and so forth and so forth. So I think, long story short, Earl-Djehuti Pabu Erasmus is an ancestral wisdom keeper, sharing wisdom with young people all across the world, from your students in the United States to Washington, D.C., to France, to South Africa. And that's the gift that I bring more than anything. I go to these fancy business schools to learn, but I come back and I re-articulate that into a language that speaks to the soul. So that's, I don't know if that is enough.
I mean, I sure think that's enough. And one of the things I'm thinking about is, I think that is what a professor was initially and traditionally, a wisdom keeper and a wisdom, people came to the academy because that's where the knowledge was, because the knowledge was in the hearts and minds of the people.
Oh, yes.
Right. And now I guess it's kind of transitioned away from that a little bit more about like learning skills that are going to get you a job so you can self-actualize your future. Right. But what I think is really beautiful is that, I mean, you and me both are in the academy for that higher purpose and see our role. Yes, we need to impart skills, but we also need to impart wisdom.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And also the embodiment of those skills, right? So it doesn't just stay in the head, which I think is really cool. So thank you. That is more than enough, just in case you were wondering. And it's probably not all that you do either. I was actually sitting with someone on Friday and we were having a bit of a whiteboard session and we were mapping out the program. And the thing that he pointed out to me is, Nikki, you're like all over the map here. Like this big thing that you do is massive. And you're in and responsible for and accountable and sponsor of, right? pretty much all of this.
Right,
like there's other
right.
people that come in or whatever. This is kind of all you. And he goes, that's a lot. And I went, this is only 20% of my job.
Indeed.
I was like, you ain't seen nothing yet, right? But one of the things that's really interesting is it just feels like I'm a facilitator and custodian of it. Like it doesn't feel heavy.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though it's kind of imparting wisdom is probably one of the most heavy things you could possibly do. And
but you know what? I think it's because you're so passionate. And so when passion has, I think, the capacity to make us feel light.
Yeah.
You know, whenever our gifts align, things become so much easier. Working late night becomes easier.
Yeah.
We get tired, yes, we get tired.
But it's not
we
stressful.
Always feel energized.
Yeah.
And so I think I've noticed that with you. And I just want to mirror that back to you. That's what you bring. So I can concur that everything that you bring is some form of embodiment, and that 20% is so meaningful right here where you are, and that you're fully present in that 20%.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm here, it's 100%. When I'm here, it's probably 120%, to be honest. But like in terms of my life and the fullness of my life and work,
I agree.
It's about 20%
of the full scope.
The full scope.
Right.
Which, I love. I think I've learned a lot about, from South Africa specifically, presence in the moment and understanding the history and understanding the potential future.
Right.
But knowing that we have to be present in the moment. I think one of the things that is, I mean, the organization and the structure and the vision that I bring from my history and my ancestors, I think one of the downsides of that is we're living 10 steps ahead in a way. And what I've learnt is to imagine and vision and dream, but then be in the moment with the humans when it matters. So, yeah.
So I think just grappling with this idea of 10 steps ahead, I think for me, it's more about understanding that the vision is present, even though it's 10 steps ahead, because the day-to-day execution of that vision happens today.
Yeah.
You know, and the fulfillment of that vision may be a little bit in the future, but it's actually right here that it's fulfilled. Because if it's not fulfilled, felt and experienced and lived in this moment, then that ultimate picture or image that you birth, it becomes really a drag, because everything feels slower, everything feels challenged. And so in our old stories, there's a story that suggests that your future is never in front of you.
Okay.
Your future is always crafted behind you.
Wow.
And so you have to stop, turn back, and grapple with everything in your past. And out of your past, you need to figure out, what is it that's going to take me to the future? And so I think that part is very soothing for me, because what it does is it reminds me that I'm not just connected to that future that is ahead. I'm also connected to this future that is behind. Sometimes we call it the past. And it is actually the past and the present that crafts this future that is 10 steps ahead. So I think I just wanted to share that, because
that is very real for me right now. You just witnessed a text message. That was looking back to the past and realizing I needed to do the future differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what's so powerful and real about this, because that future that we dream about, if we're not cautiously crafting it or extracting it or excavating it from our past, then we'd be challenged. We'd be challenged with mistakes. Are there mistakes in life?
My genuine belief when it comes to mistakes is I believe that the lessons that we need to learn are presented to us significantly more pressure until we're ready to learn the lesson.
Right.
So the mistake isn't really a mistake. It is it is just we're not listening.
I like
or
that.
we're not ready for the lesson yet.
Absolutely. I like that. In experiential learning, it's about that experience more than a mistake. And it really elevates motivation. It elevates inspiration. And it brings a very different narrative to how we walk alongside young people. And I think one of the reasons why I love working with young people, why I love working with people like yourself, is because we've learned the art of understanding mistakes as experiences, life experiences, that we have the capacity to excavate the wisdom from and then apply it to our future. So I agree with you. I agree with you.
I guess it also gives permission to let go of regret. And I think that's in older people like that are have maybe had a lesson presented to them 3 or 4 times and they've only realized that when they got knocked down.
That's incredible.
Right? The ability to go, well, you weren't ready yet. And that's okay. And all you can do is learn the lesson now and move forward.
Right.
So,
for some reason, I remember the Ronald Kroc story, KFC story, that only very late in his life, this recipe comes into being, and the whole idea of the emergence of this particular institution. I don't want to name the institution, but, out of, you can be at a particular age where you think things you're too old or time has passed, and then all of a sudden life just offers the opportunity for you to actually birth what you were meant to birth. And so regrets, we should be cautious about that, because if we live in this idea of regrets, we might prevent ourselves from seeing these opportunities that life offers through those experiences. And we oftentimes limit ourselves if we keep regrets with us for so long that we are unable to see the possibility of that future from the past.
Right.
So, but I think in all of this, I gotta say this. So my dream has always been to do the work that I'm doing, but I never knew it was going to happen. I stayed 1.5 years on the streets, and in my younger life, this is about 27 years ago. No, but more than that, probably 30 years ago. And when you're on the streets, you survive. I had to literally survive, and I could not imagine that there's a future that would have Nikki sitting across from me and speaking to an audience. I don't know where they find themselves. More than that, but also connecting with somebody from far away. That was my dream, but I never thought it would happen. I never thought that this educational journey would expand in this manner. Going back to the street time, one person came and this person was consistent on my path. He came and he said, "You don't belong here. You don't, why are you here? What are you doing here?" He kept on confronting me with these questions,
Right.
And I actually began to ponder on it. I thought about it. And one day he invited me to his house. Now, if you stay on the streets, when people invite you, you're very cautious because a lot of people abuse street people, And so that was my first imagination. Now, this person, it was a male person. He was really strong man. I thought, if I go with this person to his house, what may happen? What's going to happen? So I kept on saying, "No, I can't go. I'm so sorry." And I made lots of excuses. And then one day he invited me again, and I thought, let me go, So when you live on the streets, you're not the cleanest guy. But I also was not the dirtiest guy. I have to put that disclaimer there. But I went to his house, and, the most beautiful moment happened when we walked into this incredible, simplistic home. There was a mother, there were 2 daughters, there were 2 sons, and there were some other family members. And one of his sons was my size, my length, and so forth. And he has organized clothes from his son for me to wear. So they gave me shower facilities, got clean, and I had a meal with them. I longed for a meal I longed for love. I've never seen my father in my entire life. And here this man walked into my life. At first, I distrusted him because there were so many biases and filters that I needed to work through. And eventually, I dared to cross the line. I dared to trust again. Here, I think the whole journey of regrets and so-called mistakes and redefining that narrative for me had to do with learning to trust again. Learning to trust that every human being that I encounter on this way has a gift. That gift oftentimes is towards me and towards others. And if I can just appreciate that again. And I had to learn to see past the ancestral biases. I had to learn to see past the ancestral stereotypes, past the ancestral violence, to begin to see, his name is David, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me mentioning his name, to see him, this beautiful elder, just looking into his eyes. He gave me a hug when I was finished showering, put on the clothes, gave me a hug. I sat at that table and I just wept. You know, I wept because my mother, I only have a mother, stayed 700 kilometers from here. And I'm sure she was praying for me somehow or waiting that I would come back home. But yeah, this man took me into his house. I stayed with him for 4 years. They never charged me 1 cent. I got a job. And out of that experience, I got into the University of Stellenbosch. The point I'm making is that somewhere on our life's journey, there are people. There are people who affirms us. And so, as old as I am today, part of your journey has been to affirm certain things in my life. Part of my journey has been to affirm certain things in other people's lives. And so, humanity has this deep connection with each other. And I think part of our story is about reaffirming that connection. I tell the story to my spouse, to Joy, that I don't know what you see in all of this, Nikki, but I just value the fact that you bring so much love into this relationship. I just value the fact that you trust. I don't know how you do it, but it feels very unconditional. I get goosebumps. You know, and that is what's needed in society today. That we have coaches, mentors, professors, and people that can come alongside young people and others, especially those who's been invisible for so long, and help them to become visible again. Not taking their agency,
right,
but just creating those appropriate opportunities. And so, you know, while you're talking, I just thought I had to bring that into the space, that just like David's been that coach, that mentor, persistent in my life, very, very nonchalant and very calm, rooted, and he had this deep voice, you know. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you here? You know, and I think that's part of this experience between Northeastern and TSIBA is, and I have to call out John as well, because John has done something similar. John understands the South African history to a certain degree, and he's been fighting for others to become visible in his own unique way. And so I think between the two of you, I need to honor that. I need to honor that because I think this is what you're teaching students. This is the gift that I'm sure you give to the Northeastern student cohort when you work there and teach and lecture there. And I trust that you will continue to do that. And that this will come full circle one day where we sit down and see, wow, this circle has gotten so much bigger, you know? Yeah.
I love that picture, and absolutely. And yeah, I think I just have this amazing, and not because of me, for sure. I think I see people and I believe in what they can be and the potential that they have in them and the things that they need to be able to get there.
Sure.
And have, I guess, a lot of grace when it takes 20 more steps than I anticipated or whatever. And I think, I think that's the gift of the teacher, being able to impart the wisdom. And I've done research on experiential learning. That's what we both do together. And a lot of the studies suggest that it takes about 18 months after an experiential learning program for a student to understand its true value, right? So I looked at that in the academic context because often you get lower evaluations than a teacher that teaches more academically. I don't know if you've experienced that yourself, but then it ends up being like 18 months out, they'll have a moment and be like, oh, that's why, right? And so I'm bringing to mind a funny story. This happened probably maybe 10 years ago at this point. I was in Australia and I was teaching a teamwork and innovation class for Deloitte. And it was with the University of Sydney students, but they were international students from all around the world in a program called selves, which is like a management MBA program that's mainly European, but there's a few campuses around. Anyway, so I had the students and they had to basically work in teams to come up with an innovation for one of Deloitte's clients and then pitch it back. And it was a simulation and they were being mentored by some of the Deloitte consultants and things like that. And I think it was around 18 months later, a year to 18 months later, after this program had ended, I was running additional cohorts, but I was sitting in a little gin bar in Sydney, and it was a gin bar that you had to go get to by sliding the back wall of a barbershop open. So it was a little speakeasy hidden away in there, and I was sitting in this gin bar with a couple of colleagues that was right across the street from our office. And one of my former students came up to me and she grabbed me and she's like, she goes, I just want to say when I was in your class, I hated it. I hated it. It was so awful. It was so stressful. And I hated that you wouldn't give us the answers. And she's like, but I get it now.
Wow.
Right. And that moment for me, and in every moment where I'm telling a student something that they maybe don't want to hear, or I'm, having to share with them, confront them with the fact that, no, you can't do an independent study because you can't even show up to class. So you can't even manage your own time. Why would you manage?
Right.
Why would I trust you to manage your own learning, right? And that being quite confronting for them. I always remember that story, right? Of they might not get this now, but I'm speaking to the future in you, and the future that I see, and not just the present moment. Yeah.
I love that story because if you're not grounded, I think there are a lot of our colleagues who are wounded and they expect results because we became so result-driven. The gift that we bring, and I see it at TSIBA because I built the leadership spine from HCBA, from the certificate right into the degree, and parts of it goes into the postgraduate program. So I have the privilege of seeing students over a 3-year period.
Wow, that's cool.
And I have a similar story, perhaps not in the gin bar. But one of my
everyone loves a good gin cocktail.
One of my brightest students at that time, she sat with me and she cried profusely and she's angry and she reported me for being so strict and merciless and ruthless. And I just said no, and I just said, you gotta finish it. And she couldn't deal with it because this man, he just tells me I have to finish, I have to do this. There's no mercy, no grace, because if you miss this, you're going to miss a mark. And the year and a half later, in second year, and then she did a part of third year, she comes to me. And in fact, a week ago, I had a very intimate conversation with her in another class because she kept on referring back to these moments,
Right.
And then she says, I am so grateful. Earl, I'm so grateful. Earl, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. I see what you've been saying. I see what you've been saying.
Yeah.
I think those moments, it also comes through graduation when students, so in TSIBA we have this tradition that the third year student has an opportunity to make a statement. They declare their personal intention statement, and you listen to these statements when you sit on the stage, and they realize just how deep the work went and how transformational it has been for students. And it's humbling to see how students took their lives into their hands and began to use some of the tools that we offered to them, some of the theory that we shared with them, and they processed that. And they crafted this ideal and this idea of what their potential future could be. So I think, I value this. And I think that's the gift, one of TSIBA's gifts to students is the heart of rites of passage, because in the third year, they literally reflect on all of these things. They write a small booklet about all of these things that we're talking about. So that's the gift that I've received from TSIBA, that I could see from first year to third year how students go through the psychosocial issues, how they go through the academic issues, and how they begin to adjust, adapt. And at the end, there's this level of maturity, not just in gratitude to you, but they learn that it's actually everybody that's been part of this journey that I need to be appreciating. And I think that for me is beautiful. That gratitude is bigger than just the one person that's been in class with you, but it's actually all your lecturers. That balanced perspective is helpful for me. And the sinking in of, all right, this is meaningful, or this was meaningful. And in the end, to hear this young woman say, oh, and I think similar to your story, it's a gift. So in my traditions, the gift is never mine. It's always for others.
Yeah.
And people
in mine too.
And a lot of people has always challenged me and said, no, you gotta, actually, it's your gift. And I keep saying, no, it's not my gift.
Gifts to be given.
It needs to be flowing to someone else, because if I don't allow it to flow, then nothing else will come to me, And so I'm just the channel. And in the end, it's the student who begin to appreciate that. And I trust that they will pay it forward. They will share it with others and so forth.
Yeah, I love that. That is, it's so good. I love what we get to do.
Absolutely.
I genuinely believe that I have the best job in the world, and pinch myself every day that I get to do this, and I get to build things in the world that facilitate, create systems that facilitate people being all they can be.
Absolutely.
And helping people do that, which is really cool. And it sounds like we love the same things.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's my experience with every Northeastern cohort. I don't know how it works. I can't write a dissertation about that, and I dare not write a dissertation about that. But I know there's magic. There are relationships that I have seen emerge in my relationships with your students, as profound, as deep, as intimate, as authentic as one can ever experience in a short span of time. And you get a text from a student late at night, when are you coming again? You get another text from another student on a LinkedIn platform saying, I just appreciated that so much. I never had that opportunity. And did you hear, after a session, you have 5 young men whose eyes are just so lit up, talking to you and say, like, can we get more of that? How do we do that? You have these young women who are saying, I just had this epiphany. I don't know how to explain it, but I just want to weep. I gotta go back, and I gotta go do this. I gotta go do this. And it has nothing to do with culture. It has nothing to do with creed. It has nothing to do with color. It is just the depth of humanity.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably what I'll hold with me for the rest of my life. And when I'm old and ugly one day, I sit next to a river, I smoke my pipe, I would blow the smoke into the air and just wish well wishes over all of these young people that I've met in my life, over all of these incredible facilitators, lecturers, professors like yourself that I've seen in my life. And with permission from my wife and my kids, I would be saying, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so that's part, and that's one of my big dreams, that one day we have a story that talks about the ancestral river. And so I have this incredible impression, or some people call it vision, that one day I will sit next to a river and keep on telling stories, and whoever comes by the river will hear these stories. And so the image of smoking the pipe is that
Right.
story. And I trust that when all of this is said and done, and I have permission from those who I have served, I'd really like to just sit and relax and breathe and say thank you and feel life and feel the living and just be. Just be. So that's crazy. That's crazy.
But it's not crazy because it's like, it's the handing on of the baton. Yeah. At some point, right succession. We right now I believe that the first kind of third of your life is like you're learning and you're growing. And then you're kind of contributing and producing. And then the third act is the wisdom and legacy.
Right.
I started being a professor in my late 20s, which was quite young. And I would say that was my producing, though.
Right.
But when I got to Northeastern, I was when I started being a professor, it was 5 years ago now. It was in my late 30s. I really felt the sense that I was getting to live my legacy season early, not because it's going to be shorter, but because I was ready and I could contribute in that season longer. And I mean, there is an element of, I really feel like I'm going to tick-tack back and forth between the two, but like I really like that season, that legacy season is about passing the baton on. And I think one day we will reach a point where we go, okay, like I've imparted the legacy.
Right.
I'm good now. Like my race is run. And that's the moment that I, in a different way with a different picture.
Oh, absolutely.
But that is not a pipe by the river. But I feel like I'm going to get to that point too, where I'll be like, thank you, because I've learned just as much from every single one of my students. And I mean, I believe that the generation that we have the fortune of teaching and imparting our knowledge and wisdom to is teaching our generations and the generations that came before how to, not take up the mask in the first place. And they are just ready to be authentic and real and honest at a much younger age. And so not taking up the masks. And so I will be saying thank you as much as I will be cheering them on in their journey too.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think, perhaps I shared a little bit of my struggles, and I'm almost 60. So sitting here across from you, experiencing this as a gift, I'm also aware that others have been in their 20s and they have received what I longed for. And perhaps to those who have crossed all of those mountains and have not received that professorship in their early days, or who has not received what they longed for in those early days, I want to say three things. The biggest gift that I have given to myself was the gift of contentment. Contentment, not complacency, but contentment with a deep passion to continue the path to walk the path diligently, because that is my path that has been set out there. So I think in all of this, if there's anybody who feels that they started late or it's too late, I trust that this overwhelming presence of contentment would journey with them. And then the second thing is to do what you can do where you are.
That is the definition of responsible, which is the name of the podcast.
Right. So to do what you're able to do where you are. And what I've learned through doing that was that there are relationships that you are intimately connecting with when you do what you're meant to do. And oftentimes it's some of those relationships that take you into the third phase where doors open. So no, you're not late.
Yeah.
No, your frustration is actually part of a rearticulation of a fire that's burning inside of you. And if you don't recognize that and you therapeutically redesign your narrative, you're going to get stuck. You're going to get stuck. You got to move forward by doing what you can do. And the last part for me is when you see the manifestation of those relationships, you got to find out which are the ones that are meant to carry you forward now. And you must ask for help. Because if you don't ask for help, you're going to sit for another 20 years.
Yeah.
You have to, because some of these things are not just, nobody's going to just give it to you. And if you don't have the deep confidence to ask for help, you might struggle and struggle and struggle. So it's a deep sense of humility that, so I grew up in that age where people helped and people did, but there was a time when no one helped and no one did things. And then I realized, but it's because I need to do. I need to do. And so I want to say to those people, make sure that you have those relationships and make sure it's qualitative, deep relationships that you've invested quality in, so that by the time that you cross over into whatever you need to do, those relationships that can sustain you, they will come alongside you and help you. And don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid. You can ask anything because they trust you. They trust you. So don't be scared. You can ask bus fare. You can ask train fare. You can ask air ticket fare. It is crazy that we don't ask. Some of us just feel, no, we shouldn't do that. You know, so you gotta ask. You gotta ask. You gotta ask for investment into your business. You gotta ask for investment into this new venture that you start. If you don't ask, you might feel that story about regret. It might become a reality around you and might sort of pin you down. So I think once you have built those relationships, you got to make sure that you tap into those relationships in a meaningful way, and don't be afraid to ask. Ask. And if they say no, it's fine. It's fine. But just don't give up. You know, don't give up, and don't keep on writing the script that says, I am not worth it. I am not able to. I can't do this. You know, that script needs to be rewritten, and you need to begin to embrace your potential, because you're meant to be here right now. It's part of your journey. You're meant to be, and even if you don't see the path clear, you gotta be fearless in taking the next step every time, every time. I don't know who needed to hear that, but I think that's part of what I've learned over the years, because it gets lonely. It gets lonely when I didn't have resources. It was lonely. There were times that I prayed and nothing happened. There were times that I cried and no one came to dry my tears. There were times that I shouted and screamed to the skies, and I don't know, maybe it's the animals were the only things that hurt me, or the mountains or the sky. And so throughout that, it built this deep sense of resilience and inner patience, but it also created a deeper sense of determination that I got to find this purpose that everybody said is somewhere in my soul, in my heart. And that's what I'm living today.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Amazing.
really, really living today. I don't know.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, a lot of that was for me. So thank you. I mean, if anybody else listening gets something out of that, all power to you, but thank you. What I do though, I think you said that in a very like business context. But for me, what was learning for me is like we also have to ask for the connection and ask for love and ask people to be willing to come alongside us and walk with us. And again, exactly the same thing. Like they might say no, right? But if you don't ask,
Right.
You can't assume that they're going to know what you need.
Right. And sometimes you got to send that WhatsApp.
Yeah. Awkward. Yes, you do. Yeah. So, yeah, sometimes you just have to put it out there and trust that by putting it out there, you are open to whatever comes back.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's a lot easier to say and a lot harder to do, right? Because I say that all the time to my students and other people and ever the encourager, the wise counsel and all that sort of stuff. But then when it's me, it's like, oh, I'm sure I can work this work on my own. I'm sure I don't need to. Do I really need to ask for that? Do I really do it? So I love that you said that. And thank you. And I'm feeling very convicted right now in the best way. But you have witnessed me like stepping up to the plate and doing that just recently, which makes it even more powerful.
Absolutely. So. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you this. So I have this rant that I have with first year students,
Okay.
It's a long story, but I just want to zoom into one aspect, the issue of you're not alone. You never came alone. And I can take it back to the womb and before the womb, but I always ask them, who taught you the language that you're speaking? And then they'll tell me it's the mother, it's the father, and so then I'd ask them, do you think you would have achieved what you've achieved without that language?
Yeah.
And most of them say no. And so I remind them that it is that person who taught you the language that you need to appreciate. Whether she is no longer there, whether she's not the person that you thought she was in terms of your mother, whether she's not the person you thought she would have been, whether she is separated from your father, whether there's a broken relationship, you still got to appreciate that person. Because without that gift that she offered to you, you would not have been here today. And so I think in our lives, there's these incredible people. Modern society particularly has this very nonchalant way of thinking about those in our past. It's easy nowadays for kids to say, I don't like my mother. Or when I'm done with this, I'm going to move out of the house. But I think it's so much bigger than just moving out of your house. It really calls for a pause.
Right.
And looking back. In fact, in Ghana, there's in Ghana, they have this incredible bird, the Sankofa bird. The Sankofa bird has its feet facing the future or where the bird's walking. The bird then turns its neck onto the back, and there's a little golden ball on the back. The story behind it, if I'm allowed to summarize it in this way, is that you cannot go into the future without fetching that which is precious in your past. I think I always encourage my friends, my colleagues, students, take the precious things in your past. Some of it might hurt. Some of it may not have worked out, but there are people that has been there for you. Appreciate them. Appreciate them. The radical part is about whether your mother is a drunkard, you still got to value her. And so within the South African context, you oftentimes have that image that father and mom and dad is not the perfect ones because they have their own issues that's not resolved. And so kids want to separate from that experience as soon as they can. And so my encouragement is, within the reasonable psychological safety that you can offer yourself, you still got to appreciate them. Because they were the ones who brought you here by right. Whether you say, I didn't want to be here, you still have to reflect a little bit deeper and ask, is there a much more meaningful question that I must ask around my being here without judging them?
Yeah.
You know? And so I think part of these stories for me is that deep connections that we shape and we sometimes forget, that we need to restore, that we need to heal. And I think part of the academic journey, part of education, the essence of education, educo, educare, the drawing forth of wisdom and the inspiration to make sure that we help facilitate the latent wisdom in young people and others, has to do with doing it in a holistic way that also heals some of the traumas that has been carried into education, through education. And we need to almost become a facilitator of a much more whole person before they leave the academy. Because if we don't do that, we stand a chance that some of the cycles that has been created will just be repeated. And that's why, once again, that's why I love the program of Northeastern, because it's a holistic program. It's not just about we coming to get 8 credits. It's really about becoming this human being that understands culture in a very unique way, that has a broader perspective on culture, but also that questions the reality of who am I within this world, and what is it that I reasonably can contribute without imposing myself on others, and so forth. And then to experience the beauty of traveling to all these nice places, seeing the wildlife and all these interesting
it can be deep, but it can also be light.
Very light.
Right.
Very light.
Yeah.
That's what I love. The same with TSIBA. It is deep, but it's also very light.
Right.
So yeah, and I think again, it's the gift of depth and the gift of lightness. Is that tension that we as educators hold and balance, and that's the responsibilities that we carry into our role as educators. And I don't know if I always do it right, Nikki.
I don't think we ever always do it right.
I just come every day and I try to be more human. I try to share as much as possible of theoretical things, but more than often I cross over to the other side and try and show students that this is how real life can be. This is how gangster life can be. You can be in the smartest of companies, but life may have a challenge that you're going to face. You can have all the degrees that you want, but if you're not ready and willing to go through that deep down emotional challenges that you face in life, that degree might not be helpful.
100%.
And so it's that kind of balance that I try and bring into the class, into the spaces that we create with students in a safe way, and in a responsible way. In the end of all of that, what is humbling for me is they teaching me to be more human.
Yeah.
The questions that they ask me remind me of my flawed beingness. The questions that they ask me remind me that I don't know everything and that they have a wisdom that can startle me at time. They stimulate the creativity and they stimulate this deep sense of search for whatever they ask. Sometimes it's easy to answer the questions, and sometimes I gotta think, and sometimes I gotta say I don't know the answer. Let's see if we can find it together. So I think if anything, I probably am a lifelong learner.
I think you can take the probably out. just the much.
I surrendered to that. And it's nice to be that. It's nice to be that. It's nice to experience that. I love it. I love it. And I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, in my true respective time, we're going to wind this down because I know you have classes to prep for, but thank you for being human with me for the past hour and being willing to record our humanness so that we can hopefully share some of that, not just with the students that we get to serve in front of us, but with people listening to this and my students back in Boston who don't get the opportunity to come here. So thank you. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
And I just give it back to you. Thank you. Thank you for creating platforms for others. Thank you.
Always.
And thank you for reweaving the relational strands together. Thank you for being reckless with love. Thank you for daring things that we don't always want to try. Thank you to you for that. Thank you for risking your significance at times, just for the sake of learning, just for the sake of making sure that people like me and others become visible. Thank you to your institution. Thank you to your students for how they continue to invest into my life, to the life of TSIBA, and to others who they serve in an entrepreneurial responsibility. Thank you. Thank you for their laughter, for their pain. Thank you for the curiosity. Thank you for their hugs. And thank you for their lots of messages that they send. Sometimes I don't know what to answer back because they ask me things that like, oh my gosh. But thank you. Thank you to that. And my wish for you is that this may it expand into the spaces that you desire. It can expand to, and may it always be sufficiently resourced to achieve the goals. And one day, I was part of a program called Global Leadership Adventures, and there was one young man. His name is Ryan. He said he wanted to be a doctor, and today, the GLA was many, many years ago. Today, I see Ryan. His surname is Ryan Lyon.
Wow.
He's on LinkedIn, Lyon, and he's a doctor.
Amazing.
He does incredible humanitarian things. But if you saw him then, he was just this innocent young boy, very shy at times, very reserved at times. And now he works regionally and internationally, touching people's lives with the gift of healing. May those things that we dream about come true in that fashion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to extend that blessing out to everyone, not just to me, mirror it back to everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you for walking with me while I'm brave.
Thank you.
Maybe there'll be a good story at the end of this. We'll see.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Earl-Djehuti, thank you. I know we thanked each other during the end of the conversation, but I just want to get that last thank you in there. Thank you for always showing up fully human, with honesty, with authenticity, and with so much love. It challenges me and inspires me, and I really hope that for those that are listening, his love and his humanness have hit your heart and encouraged and inspired you to show up in the same way. So this week, as you go about your week, please think back on some of his wisdom and example. And if there's situations that you're going into that you're unsure about, that you're nervous about, I really encourage you to show up as your full self, show up fully human, and radiate the love that you have to offer and see how it changes the situation. That's it from me. Have a great week, and I'll see you same time, same place next week.